Thank you all so much for spending this evening with us, and I hope you will join me in welcoming Pedro Costa.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We just thought we would keep it simple and start at the beginning and kind of ask you a dual beginning, both where and how you encountered Straub and Huillet's work, and then what was the occasion that brought you to making this film, Where Does Your Hidden Smile Lie?
Well, the films I had, I saw, it's very strange, but I saw this film. They mentioned their first film, what's it called, Chronicle of Anna Magdalena Bach, which is a film about Bach. And I saw it when I was quite young, and because it was the film that they showed on TV Easter, Sunday Passion, or Friday or Sunday, one of the days of Easter, and that was the Easter film in Portugal. We're lucky. And then, well, but this is a special viewing memory. Then I saw the films when they were shown. I think the first time they went to Portugal, and I was already aware of film and cinema, and I actually was about to go to that film school that existed. So, and they came to the Goethe Institute, the German, where they had a retrospective at that time of, I don't know how many films, 10 or 12 films, and I saw them all. I have to say that I became very addicted to the films. And that's the reason why I made this film, because every time then when I made my own, I had briefly encountered them personally because at this retrospective I didn't met them. I just went to see things like this, Q&As. Then later, when I made my first film, it was selected to the Rotterdam Film Festival, which was in Europe at that time was the best and the very special program, and they were there with one of their films too the same year, and we met. It was a very small. It was a time when a film festival was 10 or 12 directors and 30 films. It's another galaxy. And we all had dinner together, the 12 or so. We had dinner. I think we sympathized. We liked each other, and so we kept in touch. But then much later in the year 2001, I think, I got a call from the producers of a series, French TV, and this series is called Filmmakers of Our Time. It's a long series, maybe you know. There's lots of films, normally 1 hour films about the filmmaker, and the idea is that younger filmmaker films an older master. And there's the first one is Jacques Rivette doing a film about Jean Renoir, And then there's everybody, even lots of Scorsese, David Lynch, everybody, Bresson. And at that time, in the year 2000, apparently there was a few missing, of course, and Straub and Danièle were missing. So they called me, the producers, and the producers of this series are a man called André Labarthe, who was one of the founders of the Cahiers du Cinéma, a man you can see in a lot of films by Godard, was his very, very close friend. And Janine Bazin, the widow of André Bazin, a name that you probably critique French. And they said simply, in every interview you give, you mention Jean-Marie Straub and Danièle Huillet, so we have a film for you. I was very, very afraid because I didn't know them that well, but I knew that I imagined that they wouldn't like the idea, not because of me, just the idea of having a film made about them was something that never crossed their minds. But at the same time, it was a very nice proposition. So I went to Rome, where they lived, and to discuss this. And as soon as I got there, I went with a friend who then assisted me in this film. He was a critic, French, from also the Cahiers du Cinéma, but younger. And I knew he liked a lot this writer. And so we went together, just as friends. And as soon as I said, Janine and André have this idea, he said no, immediately. It's like he says here. And said, and even if I say yes, Danièle would say no. So it seemed lost. We spent one day, we had some whiskeys, we had lunch, and then slowly, at the end of the day, he told me, and do you have any idea for this film? And I had been, at lunch, we had been, they were just talking about some things that they were going to do and their plans, and they were going to edit there's probably something strange, confusing in this film, because there are 2 or 3 times where they talk about versions, the version 1, version 2, version 3, which is maybe confusing for you. And the thing is, they did, for a lot of films, they did versions. Not what we call now director's cut or things like that. They are very, very close. They just change takes, So the first version are, in principle, the best takes of each shot, like we all do. The second version is the second best shots, and the third, the third. And they do this because at that time these are very, very, they were always had a lot of difficulty to get money for their films. They had support from German TV, French TV, and a little bit from Rai, from the Italian TV. The 3 countries, they did films in these 3 languages, French, German, and Italian. And they had this idea that they could give an original negative. This is all shot, of course, on film. So they could give one original negative to each country, if they did 3 versions. So the German would have 1 negative, and French and Italian. This is the reason. It's an economical reason, because or two reasons. One, they liked so much their, as you probably felt, they liked so much their actors and the work they did with the actors and the work that was like for me. It's exactly the same thing. Editing is a moment of great suffering. Here you don't see, because I begin the film with let's say the construction of the film, but there was a moment before this one, which was the choosing of the takes that you don't see. And it's very painful because we're never sure that this is the good one, because then there's another one where the guy is there's this thing in his eye, and there's always something. So it's a good way to not throw away everything that the actors did. So they had 3 films with different takes, so they are a little bit different, each one of them. This is what you saw is the 3rd version. It's the French version that they give. It was the last they worked on. The first, of course, it's the Italian, because it's a film in Italian. The second was German, the third was French. So anyway, Jean-Marie asked me if I had an idea, and at lunch they had told, no, we have to begin this thing, and we have 1 month to do this, and we have to go to France, etc. So when he asked me, it just came out of my mouth, it would be nice to shoot the film while you're editing. And he said, no, you're crazy. How can you do that? It's not possible to see. And it's a moment when Danièle is super concentrated and will annoy with film. And I explained the way I was doing with my mini DV camera, which was really small, just a small, nothing else. And I promised not to use light at all. And just one more me with the camera and a friend doing the sound, normal sound, boom, microphone, etc., but very discreet. I have to say this because I did this film is the fact that they said yes. I think it was because of a word, as we say, a word from a friend. They had enormous respect for a man called Jacques Rivette, filmmaker that you all know probably. It was probably well, with Godard was a strange relation, of course. It was a horse race. But Rivette, of course, was great respect. Was for the man, the writings, the films, etc. But there was something, they were really, really fond of him. And everything Rivette says was the law. It happens that Rivette liked one of my films a long time ago, and then he started seeing, and I had a brief correspondence with him, and so we knew each other, and I showed him the rough cut of In Vanda's Room. I showed Rivette, and he helped me a little bit in some things. So he told Jean-Marie and Danièle that how I shot at that moment, how I was shooting films, which was a bit special at that moment. There was Lars von Trier shooting in Denmark, but he had crews, and he was also shooting on mini DV and very freely. It was the Dogma. Probably you heard about this, but it was the first films made in mini DV. So when Rivette told them it's okay, I saw a film. The film is great, and he's very discreet. You won't notice him, and they were very surprised. They were very intrigued, I think. And that's I think, one of the reasons that the film was made, because of Jacques Rivette. So they said yes, finally, and I went, and the film took 1 month and 3 days, which was really the period that they did this work of editing. They had 2 or 3 days to choose the takes before, but I arrived later. I was not there, and then was the mix of sound, and that's another phase. So we shot 1 month, me and a friend who did the camera, the sound, and as you probably felt, and this is chronological. It's good that you have seen Sicilia, so you see that in my film there's not every scene. I chose some moments, but it's in chronological order, so from the beginning to the end. We approach the end of the film. You might, I don't know if you feel, but even Danièle both become more and more open to me, to the film, so what happened was exactly what they say. There was some trust there in this month of work. I think they saw that, yeah, I was discreet, I was trying to do my best. I was not annoying Danièle, trying not to, except for a moment when my colleague, friend on sound, he panicked every day, because this is really a documentary in the pure sense that we didn't know what was going to happen every second. I mean, more for Jean-Marie. Danièle was more steady there. So, but there was one day when my friend, being so afraid of not having the right sound, a good voice, etc., with his boom, had this small mics. How do you call them?
Lavalier.
Yeah, very small things. And he decided to glue one of these mics over on top of the viola. And it's a black thing with an iron, with a cable, but very small. And so in one moment, Jean-Marie gets up and sees this and bangs it, because he thought it was a fly. And it's on camera. I have that. Actually, I gave that on one of his birthdays. I did a small film. Must be somewhere there. So that was the only violent moment, or disturbing moment. The rest was quite okay, and the trust grew, and then we became friends forever. And I think they liked the film. I'm sure they liked the film. They weren't expecting this, of course. I wasn't expecting this film. There was a kind of, how can I say? They were like this in life, let's say, because that's everybody asks this question, if they are like this, and they are like this in life. They were like this in life, and so they are not acting at all. But at the same time, I think the film progresses, and there's more and more. He opens a lot. It tells a lot of things that I would never hope to. And the top is at the end, when he tells the story of the Lycée Voltaire, the school where he was when he fell in love with her. And nobody understood what she said, and he, because he was in love, understood everything, etc., etc. That was, well, I was shooting that, and my friend with him, and we were completely amazed by this gift, in fact.
But it's so interesting, we've heard you speak a bit this week about your working process in these interiors that you're shooting in with your collaborators, and the way that you kind of talk about your production process, you're really talking about documenting the work that you're doing with your collaborators. So, your films don't necessarily fit within the kind of comfortable distinction between fiction, nonfiction, documentary, narrative, but they do kind of capture labor, and you feel the labor that goes into the shot and that goes into the production of the image. And that, for me, really brings this film that we've seen into alignment with your other work, in that it is a document of labor, and while you didn't necessarily know what they were going to say moment to moment and it hadn't been rehearsed, there's still that dimension of depicting and capturing labor and elevating that labor, and recognizing all of the richness and the density of even the slightest gesture within that. So I was sort of thinking, it's interesting. I wanted to ask you about, you've spoken about your production process, and this is a film about montage, but watching it tonight, it really also does feel of a piece with your other work in, capturing a moment in time and feeling like, I asked you initially if it was a performance that we were seeing by Straub and Huillet, and you mentioning that it's not. But I guess, my question has to do with, the kinds of labor that you're capturing and that they're involved in. Do you see yourself thinking similarly about the labor of filmmaking as Straub and Huillet? Did you find that you were kind of taking inspiration and guidance from them in how you then approached editing as a practice, or was this more about just kind of sharing space with them and giving them the opportunity to express their beliefs about editing?
It's a little bit of all of what you said. I mean, I knew the films quite well. I mean, I've had seen their films. I had always liked their films. I was a fanatic. And when I discovered their films, I was much more, it was a little bit before I went to film school, etc., but I was one foot in film, another foot in music, because I had a band and we were playing. And discovering Straub and Godard, because they were the two at that time, it's the 80s. They were the two mountains, the two titans. The rest was a bit satellites. Some very nice, very good, but it was two crushing forces, and each film was advancing the other and challenging the other. They had a relation like that. So for me, it was between this music, this rock raw of that time, and this. Of course, my other friends in the band were not very convinced. With Godard, yes, but with this one, they were a bit. When I said this is exactly like the Sex Pistols, and I tried to explain why, and etc., they were a bit more. They understood in political terms and the energy and everything, but then there was another, lots of layers that were not easy. They were never easy. There was a moment in the screening I was afraid because I heard so many chairs. And, that's a classic for them. Yeah, it was always problematic. So, but I was a fanatic. I knew the films quite well. So I would say that the shooting, this moment was just was more, how do you say, a consolidation, do you say this, of our friendship. We were acquainted, and during this month we became real solid friends, and of course it confirmed a lot of things. I knew them a little bit in the privacy of their home, and so I saw the same thing without the editing work, but I saw this happening, exactly the same thing, while they were washing the dishes or with taking care of the cats, etc., etc. Domestic work. So yeah, it helped me a lot. It helped me so much that I had Wanda's room waiting, ready, but not yet on. It was a 3-hour long film, so I had to go to a festival. I could not bring it to it was a very difficult film to show, to release. So I was waiting, and this shooting, I went back to, and before start the editing of this one, I changed 2 or 3 things in Wanda's room, and I think it had to do with the work on this one. I think, it's not certain, but so I think it helped a little bit. The other thing is, as you might, I don't know, there's a lot of filmmakers and aspiring filmmakers in this room. Doing a film like this is completely crazy, because it's like, I don't know, driving a car with 5 mirrors, you know, it's because it's a mirror of a mirror. Editing itself is already something very strange. Even Godard could never explain what happens. As a part of it's a very concrete, like you see, very material work. I mean, cutting and making sure, and almost it's a very manual and very material. But at the same time, it's so mysterious, so. And then I can tell you about the title that has to do with this. The title of this film is something like Danièle says in the shot. It's there, but it's not there. That smile that she sees. Wait, let's catch this smile, and 9 minutes after they have this dispute, this quarrel, she says, no, there's nothing, there's no smile, there's something, but now I don't know. So it's fun for the most material Marxist-Leninist of filmmakers to finally. They are finally dealing with mystery, with something invisible, or a kind of mirage. Because editing is also that. It's not only the 2 frames, etc., etc. It's also a kind of dream or mirage, or it's the pursuit of something that sometimes is not there. And we make it there. We make that what is always saying there. We have to have it there anyway. So anyway, yeah, it was very strange, the editing of this film, because I was sitting and I had an editor, and then in the film there was Danièle and Jean-Marie, so it was like that Magritte painting, you know, where the guy is back on the. It was really strange, because we were doing things, almost we were cutting better than they were. I say better because this is completely, there's a good text, very good text on this film, and Sicilia at the same time, by a country fellow man of yours, a man called Tag Gallagher, specialist of transport, and Rossellini. And he wrote a very nice text called Straub, Anti-Straub. And he tells exactly what I'm saying, that this mirroring montage was for me a kind of challenge to. I told you I'm a fanatic. I promised the film. I promised to deliver something a bit didactical, or in all the series you have to more or less, not he was born there, etc., but at least leave people with an idea of who are these guys, what do they do, etc. So I had this in mind, more or less. But what came across more for me was that I felt, and of course there's something important, they were editing on Moviola in film, and I was editing a digital already, so a computer. And that makes things, as you know, a bit more fast, and very, very fast. And there's a lot of things that we can do in digital, effects, jumps, things that took a lot of time in film, and some that you cannot do. That's for sure. So I started thinking that we could improve on Straub and Danièle, but improve not on the film, on themselves as characters. So suddenly, again, it's not mistrust and nothing against this wonderful school. I hate documentary. It doesn't survive. Documentary is something dead. It's a newborn dead. It doesn't move. So me and my friend editor, and she agreed with me, we said, let's make them even bigger. I mean, each time he said something interesting, and sometimes most of the times very funny, interesting, and intelligent, or clever, and informing, and we said, let's take it higher, like in the song. And we did, by digital means, so almost every time Jean-Marie turns his back, something comes out of his mouth that we picked on another moment. 10 days later, I don't know. Everything he talks on the corridor when he's outside is completely edited by ourselves. So, because I thought even Jean-Marie Straub sometimes is not a superhero. So he says something, it's funny, but it's not enough. I'm a fanatic. So I turned him into this colossal hero, and Danièle also, but arranging their characters, really characters, as in a Billy Wilder comedy, which this is very close to, I think. I wanted them to, and that's the thing I've always felt. They are Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn. That's what they are. So one says something and the other completes the, let's go on, counterpoint, exactly. So we worked a lot on that. So it's a very, very manipulated film. It's the most difficult editing I've ever did. Me and my friend, the editor, she was she's a very good technician. This was not the beginning, but we were on the first years of digital editing programs, Avid, and it was Avid. So we did a lot of things, you know, not only, mostly with sound, of course, this that I'm telling you, but also image. Sometimes it comes, we cut time, so we had to arrange the image in 2 parts, so Danièle is editing, and when he goes out, we speed up the image. Lots and lots of things. If you go back and see the timelines of this edit, it's incredible. the graphics of it, the effects, the things. So, and all of these to do that I'm explaining, and of course there was a funny moment when they saw the film for the first time. They were so, I think they were so amazed or intrigued that they didn't saw that yet. But the second time or third, Danièle told me, I'm not sure if he he didn't say that. When he talks about Eisenstein, he's never so clever. And so I explained, and she came to see, because she's an editor, so she came, and for a few days she came to my house in Lisbon, and I showed her what we had done, and she was very, very interested. Sometimes people say, oh, this kind of people, they're dinosaurs, etc. So they think digital, and not at all. They were very, very interested. Jean-Marie, after the passing of Danièle, did a lot of films in video, digital, alone with a camera, with one of my cameras. So, and she was very interested too. So yeah, but if you read the text by Tag Gallagher, it's you'll get a lot of things. It's a film made against a great part of the method that they are discussing and proposing in this film, against this method for them and for film. I mean, so it's a contradiction, or it's a false movement. I mean, there's a movement that we did, and sometimes we thought about that. We're doing absolutely when he's saying the soup, the sound, etc. We were exactly doing this, not the soup, but adding sounds that could make this message, this word, this discourse, this thing be more effective, efficiency. So it met the things they say about Chaplin, that, and he says that Chaplin was all about efficiency. And we thought the same thing. So yeah,
perhaps in thinking about efficiency, we might hand it over to the audience if folks have questions.
Raise your hands, and we can bring one of the microphones over, and then we'll alternate back and forth. We'll do the next one up here.
So it was really beautiful, and your explanation's stunning. Given the intimacy of the project and the kind of intense timeline and all of that, coupled with your clear disdain for documentaries, and then kind of and then discussing the kind of the pain of editing, and all the tough series of decisions that have to be made. I was wondering if there was a period of time, or if you had the luxury of being able to walk away from the material for a bit and let it settle before you went into this intense period of editing.
No, I did the film. We shot the film 1 month, 3 days. I remember I had to take the train immediately because I managed to get what I wanted. This series, the famous filmmakers of our time had a very tight budget, and it was always the same model, 16 millimeters, a crew, and a French crew, and, I don't know, maybe 10 people, and well, and a certain amount of money, etc. And I said, no, I'll do it myself with a friend, and I want 1 month. So I had, but I got that. But then on the editing, for the editing, I couldn't get more than, I can't remember. It was not much. It was. I can't remember, 2 months, maybe, no, less. So I had to run to Paris, and we did the first version of this in Paris, in the editing room in Paris. And then something happened that sometimes I tell, other times I don't. You're seeing a much longer version of the original film. The original. There's no original, but I had to do a film with the program is 50 something, you know, TV has this 52, I think, or 61, something like that. And it had to be that. And while the editing was going on, I immediately saw that I had much more interesting things. And that was difficult because I couldn't organize 50 minutes or 52 or something with all the good things I had. It was a bit chaotic. We had so we thought of a version. Actually, I had a talk, a very, very extremely violent talk with a producer from French TV. This is supposed to be the art intellectual TV in France, in Europe actually. It's called Arte. So it's supposed to be no problems. It's the contrary, absolutely. Everybody that did films for this series had problems, the directors. The biggest was Chantal Ackerman, who had a fight with the same guy. Just a gag, because this guy is the brother of Philippe Garrel, a filmmaker that this producer is Thierry Garrel, is his brother. And I remember forever, for the rest of my life, and several people, witnesses also remember, that in my quarrel with him, because of this, I said, I want to do bigger, I want to do that. He said, no way. And he was very annoyed, even being the friend, the brother of Garrel. He said, it's too dark. It's always, it's in the room, you and your rooms, you and your prisons, your rooms. Why don't you do something outside? So, you can't see, you can't edit outside. Well, no, let's get it over with. And when he said, why don't you shoot a little bit of a forest or something, he said something stupid. And I said, it just came out, rooms, but don't your brother taught you anything? Because his brother is just couples in beds, in rooms, lamps, and so he was, don't mention my brother. It was really, it was a very cinephile, and a lot of people around. It was a circus. So I couldn't get it, but at the end I told him, okay, so if you let me have this material, the material was mine, the rushes, the film was theirs, well, the cut, but the rest, all the tapes were mine. So I said, I'll take this to Lisbon and I'm going to do the true version, my version. And of course he exploded. I want that version. I said, but that version will be an hour and a half. No, I don't want your version. So this is my version that I shot after. So you're right. I had a bit more time to think. That smaller version exists. It's the one that was shown on TV and the one they possess. And this, I have the rights for this one, and it's the one that was released in some countries in cinema or on DVD, Blu-ray or DVD. So this is the story, and you're right, I forgot. I had a little bit of time, and then in Lisbon I was much more, I was calmly relaxed editing this. Some of the scenes are the same. There's like, I don't know, half an hour is probably the same in both films, in different orders. The other film is much more, it's even more, I would say it's more Godardian, more, it's actually, you said that Godard said that thing, it's actually the version that he saw first on TV, because he was watching TV and he saw that version. I think he was very jealous.
We have time for one more question. We have one down
One
here.
right up. Oh, I see one. Sorry,
Mhm.
two at the same time.
Trying to do.
So in the film, we saw that Straub gets really frustrated when he realized that the actor didn't land the emphasis on Gaza, which is different from the rehearsal. And we know that they do like hundreds of reversals and like do tiny adjustment on words and how they like present the words. And I also know that you do a lot of rehearsal with your collaborator too. So I wonder if you ever talked with them about what are they looking for during rehearsal, like in words, and what yourself, maybe not really in relation to this film, but like looking for in words, like during rehearsal.
It's very difficult to explain here, and it's a very long, it's complicated work. It takes days and days and days, and months, like you saw. He says for this film was, I don't know how many weeks. The others were years of reading the text, all the actors, and then memorizing, and then working on the rhythms, on the pauses. So I don't know if you ever seen the text written by Jean-Marie. The colors he uses to. So he used to do a sort of, how do you call it, partitura, or a musical score. I mean, yeah, everything is marked. Pause, a brief pause, a long pause, super long pause, accelerations, etc. I mean, everything. So that's a long work in collaboration. I don't do that. I do some. Actually, Jean-Marie used to say that probably we do, to get to the same place, we do different. We have different methods. I am in oral work. We don't write anything because I've found that the people I work with, these actors I work with, they all come from that tradition to music and oral tales. I mean, everything is conversation, everything is word, everything. So, but in the end, as for Straub, as for me, the idea is that the word becomes action, more or less. If you can admit that every word is one action, so they don't have to move, like he says, because everything that comes out of it's on movement. I mean, so the idea of movement, which is, this is a bit poetic, but it is what it is. Film cinema is movement, so words, you have to move the words, and he does very unexpected and kind of gymnastics with their texts that are very, very surprising sometimes. As you see in the end with the guy, everybody was laughing at each intonation or each explosion of the guy, the knives. What's the word for it?
Knife sharpener?
Knife sharpener. Anyway, but the detail, the minutiae of that work, I cannot tell you here. I mean, this film is made to avoid answering this kind of question in a way. So, also because there's a lot of things about editing that are, I'm not saying that they are completely answered, but they are one thing that I remember, it doesn't have to do with exactly your question, but now I remembered that I started filming this, I was going to say like a bad documentary, but it was exactly like, I didn't know what to do, zooms, things, because and missing everything, of course, like a bad documentarian. I missed when I got there, he was not there, or she was alone, she was like this, and then I was lost for 2 days. Actually, these 2 days, because this is chronological, I missed it so much that, but at the end it turned out well, because we did this prologue that the film has, where they talk about the difference between them, which is one frame. This is very. But I missed completely the first when they are editing the guy with the oranges. I missed it completely, and because we are all very slow, because we are all very distracted, and that has to do with documentary. You'll see. It took me 2 or 3 days to see the door. I was seeing Jean-Marie going out, but it struck me suddenly that this door, when it opened, or closed, but when he opened the door, there was something happening with the door and the screen, and it was a kind of 2 exits, or how to say the contrary of exit, entrances.
I was about to say portals too.
Yeah, windows. Jean-Marie went out into, and there you could say fiction, and Danièle stayed in documentary. And sometimes it's the opposite. Danièle flies into sort of with her film when she's alone, and then Jean-Marie goes into a kind of documentary and so. So there's something happening between these two portals or windows or doors, or as you say, and I had not seen. I didn't see that. I was very nervous, and I wanted to be close to them, and etc. And one of the things that the French producer hated is that we never see them. We don't know if they're young or old. When we see the cigar, nothing. We see the back. So when I saw this door opening to this, and it opens to it opens to documentary. It opens to a very ugly reality, a corridor and this. And we have this escape of going to Sicilia through that window that Danièle keeps always open. So the game, and the game they play too, it's very moving and very And when I when I saw that, I relaxed and I began trusting everything, and I became much more confident and yeah, I don't know why I was telling you this, but yeah, because of documentary and fiction, because I really have the feeling that this film is even more each day that passes, and because they are not here anymore, and the end has become, because the end is completely staged by me. I asked them to come, and of course this doesn't happen. They didn't show the film in the theater, and the theater with the red doors. This is the theater, the cinema. This is shot in a school, place like this. And on the first floor, there's the corridors and the rooms, the editing rooms, and downstairs there's a cinema a bit bigger than but a cinema where at night or they did some screenings of their films for a few students that were there, as you see, and they talked about the films, Q&As and stuff. So I think each day that passes, it becomes even more fictional, because I don't know, I've had some kids asking me, what is this giant TV with handles? Nobody knows what this is. The work they do is super strange now, because nobody edits like this. Actually, they say it, nobody does this job. Like with one soundtrack, I mean, nobody has that courage, that's the word. No one of you, none.
The challenge.
Me, the contrary, again, super digital. But in the end, of course, I think we all go on the same, I hope we all go in the same direction. The direction that he talks about in the end. This is completely fucked up, so something has to change, and cinema is still here to change a little bit, or to be a proposal. So that's our job. But it's fiction, you know, it's fiction, I insist. And it's the only way that this film can survive and endure is being fiction. I am absolutely convinced. I'm sorry. But, and it's just because it's a film that, as I have the proof at every screening, it's the only, and I will never ever do a comedy like this. I hope I will do, but it's a comedy, and because it's fiction, and that's the reason, because it's fiction, it has a happy end. And documentaries never have happy ends, I think. So, and this, I think, has even if they are not here,
that feels like a pretty happy ending to me for this wonderful program this evening, this wonderful conversation. We do have to close down the building and let all of our museum staff go home, but really I'm so grateful for all of your presence, grateful to you, Pedro, for this whole week. The conversation continues tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Music Box, so join us there if that's of interest, and join me in thanking Pedro one more time.